So hello again, this is talk 4 in our series of talks. And this one is entitled, Who to Believe. So the Buddha was wandering through the kingdom of Koshala, accompanied by a large number of monks. Sometimes we hear of the Buddha wandering alone, very often with a companion, sometimes with a small number of monks, but anyway, on this occasion, with a large number of monks. And he comes to Kesaputta, a town of the Kalama people. His reputation had gone ahead of him, and a deputation of the Kalamas went to meet with him. It's interesting, the account that is given. Some of the Kalamas greeted him very cordially. There was a warm exchange. Others just much more formally put their hands together in salutation, in greeting, and others just sat down quietly and said nothing. So it seems there was already quite a difference of attitudes amongst those who came to see the Buddha in this deputation. So once they were all seated, a question was raised on behalf of them all. We get all sorts of spiritual teachers coming through Kesaputta. Each of them expounds and glorifies their own teaching and puts down, belittles, dismisses, pulls to pieces the teachings of others. One after another, they do the same thing. This leaves us uncertain. It leaves us full of doubt, who to believe, who to trust, and who to be wary of. So the Buddha responds, well, of course you're uncertain and in doubt, Kalamans. You've got very good reason to be uncertain and doubtful. When it comes to deciding what to believe and what to trust in, there's a number of things you just can't rely on. And the Buddha gives a whole list. Just because something belongs to a long-standing oral tradition or is part of a lineage of teachings, because of hearsay, today we might say, oh, I read it in the papers, or I saw a documentary on TV. Logical reasoning, inference aren't enough. Careful reflection, that's not enough. Pondering something and really feeling we like it, it makes sense, we just feel it must be true, that's not enough. Because a speaker seems really convincing and capable, that's not enough. Or because one thinks, oh, that person's my teacher. No, that's not enough of a reason either to accept something as true. Rather, Kalamans, the Buddha says, it's when you know for yourselves these things are unskillful, these things are blameworthy, these things are criticised by the wise, these things, if acted on, lead to harm and suffering. Then, Kalamas, you should know that you can avoid them, dismiss them. And he goes on, what do you think, Kalamas? When greed, hatred and ignorance arise in someone, does this serve their good or bring them harm? It brings them harm, Lord. A person overcome by greed, by hatred, by ignorance, with a mind possessed by greed, hatred and ignorance, they're likely to kill living beings, to take the not given, to engage in sexual misconduct, to lie, and encourage others to do the same. All of this leads to suffering for themselves and for others. Indeed, Lord, so it is. So what do you think, Kalamas? Are these qualities skillful or unskillful? Unskillful, Lord. Are they blameless or blameworthy? Blameworthy, Lord. Are they going to be criticised or praised by the wise? criticize, Lord? And when taken up and given expression, are they going to lead to happiness or to suffering? To suffering, Lord. So, Kalamas, this is why I say don't just go by something because it's part of a tradition. Don't just go by hearsay, by reasoning, by inference. Don't even go by reflecting on something, liking something, by hearing a convincing speaker, or because you think that person is my teacher. Rather, you must go by knowing for yourselves that these qualities are skillful or unhelpful, or skillful or unhelpful. So the Buddha goes on, and Kalamans, what do you think? If non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion arise in a person, is this going to lead to their happiness, to their good and welfare, or their harm, to their good? So the words non-greed, non-harm, non-delusion have a very positive connotation in the ancient Indian language, a bit like non-violence would have in our language today. So perhaps we could think more positively. The Buddha is talking about generosity, love, wisdom. And he goes through now the same series of questions, and we can get a sense of the very careful, step-by-step way in which he would teach. Are these qualities then of ungrasping, of love, of wisdom, are they skillful or unskillful? Skillful, Lord. Are they blameworthy or blameless? Blameless, Lord. Are they going to be criticised or praised by the wise? Praised, Lord. And when taken up and given expression, are they going to lead to suffering or to benefit? To benefit, to good, Lord. So he lists again all the reasons for not accepting something as truth, and urging again the importance of being clear for oneself if teachings lead away from suffering and to happiness and welfare, and that then, only then, were they to be adopted and put into practice. He went on, now Kalamans, one who is a disciple of the noble ones, who is actually free of greed and ill will and desire, clearly comprehending, mindful, resolute. They extend in every direction to all the world, all around, above, below, everywhere, an all-encompassing loving kindness, expansive, immeasurable. So too, they pervade in every direction, everywhere, through the whole world, an all-encompassing compassion. So too, an all-embracing sympathetic joy. So too, an awareness imbued with equanimity. So the Buddha here is describing the practice of the 4 Brahma Viharas, the divine abodes, the development of loving kindness, metta, of compassion, karuna, of sympathetic joy, mudita, of equanimity, upekkha, practices probably familiar to many of us. And he continues, now Kalamans, one who is a disciple of the noble ones, with a mind free from hostility and ill will, pure and free from all defilements. They gain these 4 assurances. First of all, if there is a life, a world after death, and if actions have consequences, and if the law of karma applied to one's rebirth, with good actions leading to a good rebirth and unskillful actions to a painful rebirth, then I will reappear in a good realm. But the second assurance, if there is no life after death, then in this life I live well. I live the best life I can, free of hostility, ill will, and trouble. And the third assurance, if suffering is brought on through acting unskillfully, I have not wished harm on anyone, and so bring no harm on myself. And the fourth assurance, even if evil is not brought on oneself through acting evilly, unskillfully, I've lived the best life I can. So the Buddha is really quite pragmatic. He doesn't assert any metaphysical position here with the Kalamas. He doesn't ask them to believe or not believe in rebirth. He simply gives the teachings that they can straightforwardly assent to from their own observation and experience, and which encourages them to live the best life they can for the benefit of themselves and others. The traditional account of this meeting of the Buddha with the Kalamans ends with one of those standard declarations often found in the oral tradition. Magnificent Lord, wonderful Lord. It is as if one were to set upright what had been overturned, make visible what was hidden, show the way to one who was lost, or carry a lamp into a room so everything became visible. In just this way, the Lord has made the truth, the Dharma, known to us. We go for him to refuge, to his teaching and his Sangha as lay disciples from today and for the rest of our lives.